Hello, everyone. Welcome. Just waiting on a few more people joining us, and then we'll get started. So, important to note, my name is Maddie Kortenaar, and I'm joined today by my colleagues at Social Value Engine, Richard, our CTO, Dan, our tech consultant, Ivan, the co-founder, and Rab. It's a very exciting day for us as we are about to launch our new AI functionality. So it's a big move for us, and Ivan will tell a little bit more about the why and the how, and we'll show a demo today. But purely for administrative purposes, just to know, this meeting is recorded, and the recording will be made available to everyone who has registered for this webinar. Also, please do feel free to use the Q&A or the chat to ask questions at any point, and we'll try to answer them towards the end of the call. If we somehow don't have time to answer your question, or you have a question afterwards you think, oh, I should have asked that, please do get in touch with our team. So it's our first names at socialvalueengine.com, or you could email support@socialvalueengine.com. So I will now hand over to Ivan, who will talk a little bit about why and how we're introducing AI.
Thanks very much, Maddie. I can't see anybody, but it is great to, because I did see a list of people who were coming in advance, and I can work out from the rather nice little monikers you get on Teams that we've got quite a number of old friends on this call, as well as some new people. So I'm thrilled that we've got this scale of people coming along to give us the opportunity to really talk you through this radical step change in our functionality. And I remembered this morning when I was walking the dogs and thinking about what I was going to say, a brilliant advert Robbie Coltrane did when they introduced online banking. And so he said, we're all able to be our own bank manager now. And that's really where this has taken us. I, for a very long time, have been frustrated by the fact that social value, at least in part, has been a bit of a dark art, notwithstanding the hard work done by the New Economics Foundation and other people to democratize it and make it something that anybody really, with a bit of support, could get their teeth into and do. It's still been quite difficult, I think, for people who are either not very confident in terms of numbers, or who are just a bit daunted by some of the terminology, to really be brave enough to get into the water and find it's warm and swim around in it. And so what we've been trying to do for a long period of time is encourage more people into really looking at social value on their own account, because I absolutely believe social value isn't just transactional. It's really innate in relation to most things we do, and it's very important that people on their own account can begin to engage with it and use it to both communicate the good that they do in society, but also to use it as a tool to reflect on how they might change, evolve, and develop what they're doing. And we found, almost initially when we started, as a really positive unintended consequence, that the more we got people actually involved themselves, the better not only the results of the work we were doing principally at that stage for them, but the more they actually were able to reflect, learn on, sharpen up, crisp up, and redevelop the approaches they were taking to things. But there has always been still a significant challenge for people to really get their teeth into taking ownership of the process. And you could say, well, this man's just been speaking for 10 minutes and sort of metaphorically cutting his own throat, because he's just moved away from being a consultant to empowering us all to do this instead. But the important thing is that I think we are really very much at the Social Value Engine, an organisation with a social purpose and a social commitment, and we absolutely should be, because, you know, how can you really be involved in social value if you're not like that? But what Maddie will walk you through in a very short period of time, thanks to the good offices of particularly Dan and Richard, I think is a game changer. It really creates the potential for people to, in a user-friendly and AI-enabled way, get stuck into this stuff without having to read lots of background material information. Now, there is also a danger there, because if you don't engage with something and don't understand it, you get some results. There's a danger that you don't really appreciate what you've generated and you miscommunicate what you've done. So there's lots of guide rails around this process. And we're not intending to leave anybody who's currently a subscriber or thinking of subscribing out there on their own, just to, something that would be tantamount to giving a toddler the keys to a car and telling them to get on and drive it. So there is lots of support for people. And the AI itself has some guardrails built into it that give you some advice and support around things like deflation and other things. But this is a game changer, I think. We've been building up to it for a long time, because it really does change the way that you can engage and get involved. And I'm starting to warble on a bit now, so it's time for me to draw a line under, because we've only got half an hour what I'm saying. But this is a very exciting moment for me, and I hope ultimately when you get your teeth into what we're going to show you, you'll find that to be the case as well, because I think you will be very strongly empowered by the facility that this new arrangement offers. So there we go, Maddie. That's my pep talk. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Ivan. That was really good. I will now share a demo. So I've learned one thing about from years of working with technology is never do a live demo of new functionality. I'm breaking all the rules, and I'm going to show you a live demo of our AI, which is and should be on your screen right now. Ivan, yes, we're good. So most of you are current customers from the Social Value Engine, so you'll be very familiar with this screen. Last year, we created a new version of the engine, which we currently dub as Social Value Engine Lite. At some point, we'll probably lose the Lite. We always intended this to be a very friendly but accurate way to measure social value. So this is what you see when you log in and you've got your projects open here. This is just a demo organization with 4 projects in it. Now, we have in the engine something we call wizard mode. And you can go to it at the top right, you can go from a wizard mode into an expert mode. Expert mode is just basically the full version. The wizard mode is a guided walkthrough that just makes it getting started with social value a little bit easier. I will click on Create Project, and just for the purpose, I am going to call this AI Webinar Live Demo. And I will create this. So I'm now seeing our wizard interface, and it asks me to state the objectives of my initiative in this project. And I am going to use, imagine I work at Community Development Trust, or I work maybe for a charity. So I'm going to say to repurpose an existing building to be a youth club with a food pantry and activities for families. Now that sounds pretty good. And I think I'm quite happy with that, but I'm going to click on Suggest Improvements, because the AI will give me a little bit of feedback on it. And it says, okay, you say you're going to do a youth club, but we need a little bit more detail. And as you know, we are SVI accredited. We care all about stakeholders and outcomes rather than outputs and non-verifiable facts. So it says, include these outcomes and who are your stakeholders and what are the wider impacts. And it's absolutely right. These are, that's the way we should be trying to measure social value. So it provides me with a suggestion what I could have instead. I click apply and edit here. Now, would I say actually it's not 3 years, it's a year or 2 years, or I could say it says local families, but it's actually a different area. I can still edit it. I can still tweak it any way I like. But for the purpose of this demo, I'll go with what is suggested. And I click on continue. Now, in social value, we want to focus on outcomes, and the AI will go through our current database of over 600 pieces of research to find the approximations of value or proxies that it thinks are most applicable. It will also provide a justification for it. I won't read this out loud now, but it's not that it's just a black box approach. It actually says, well, this is why I chose it. Let's say that we say, well, improved social connections for young people. The proxy seems right. We expect to have, let's say, a good 400 young people. You can select the year of impact, and we use the additionality guide to select an impact adjustment that's auto-deflated. You don't want to overclaim your social value. Again, you can find a little bit more help. You can change it if you like. Just for the purpose of this demo, I will click on Save. It will continue to suggest outcomes that we may want to track. In this case, we said it would have a food pantry in it. So it talks about the value of being supported by a food bank, and it says the number of visits. Well, in this case, as we unfortunately know, food pantries and food banks are more in demand than ever. So we will say, well, we expect this to have 4,000 visits. It will continue to provide outcome suggestions up to whatever it thinks is relevant. I would say generally 4 or 5. In this case, you could continue, or you could say, well, you know, this is it. You can also still add your own outcomes. You don't have to use the AI. You can still override it. You can still tweak it or do it yourself. Important for social value calculations is that we add inputs. These can be any sort of resource that go towards a project. A very common one is grant funding, often specifies what kind of grant funding it is. In this particular example, we could say it's 75,000 a grant, and we could potentially say, and also we have some volunteering hours, which we could say, well, it's 1,000 volunteering hours for a token figure of 1650 to ensure that's included. In an example of a food pantry, you potentially also want to have the initial cost of the food that you provide if there was a cost to the project. Once we click continue, we will have our social value report on screen. We can already print this and export it. We can go back and make adjustments. But this is all it is. In 4 steps, especially as you're getting started, you can access your report. Should I go out into expert mode if you like? I can still look into a more, sorry, this is just an example project, but into the full report that lists these outcomes and links to the sources that it uses. So now I've shown you the wizard. There's something else that is interesting, and that's their chatbot that we also provide, that provides advice on anything social value related. It could be a generic question, such as what is social return on investment? I mean, that by itself could be interesting. You can read this, you can say if that was useful, you can copy it as well. Or you might say for a youth club and community pantry, what proxies do you recommend? And it will provide that kind of like that same advice that we saw in the wizard, and it will offer to have additional information on this. Should you want to, you can enlarge your screen. If this was all a little bit too small, there's always that risk when I'm screen sharing. And you can also go to past conversations. So you can view your history of all the questions you've asked in the past, so you can quickly go back to that. And that, at what's going to be released today to all our existing customers, is what you'll be getting. But there are some future developments as well. I'm going to stop sharing. Now I'm going to go to Dan, our technical consultant. There we go.
Very successful demo, Maddie. Well done.
Nothing broke.
Nothing broke. So yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Dan. I'm one of the developers who are working on the Social Value Engine, and my background's actually in AI. So this is a topic of which is a real interest to me. Today, I wanted to talk about a few of the implementation details. And I promise I'll try to keep this high level and touch on maybe some of the concerns you may have around AI in particular. But obviously, if I don't cover something of interest, ask a question, we can get that answered. So behind the scenes of what Maddie just demonstrated, we're making use of ChatGPT, which is a model produced by OpenAI. I imagine many of you may be familiar with it and might have used it on the public internet. However, in the engine, we are making use of a private version of ChatGPT, which runs within Microsoft's cloud platform Azure. The important difference here is that sort of between the engine's private ChatGPT and the public version is that OpenAI cannot make use of the conversations to train future models. So in other words, there's no risk that the conversations you have in the Social Value Engine being learned and resurfaced in future AI models produced by OpenAI. So that's quite different to the public one you may have used in the past. In addition to that, at Social Value Engine, we aren't training or tuning the model at all. So, similar to what I've just said around OpenAI, us at Social Value Engine won't be learning the conversations that you have, and there's no chance that they'll be resurfaced in future functionalities produced by Social Value Engine. And whilst we're on this privacy topic, we don't send any private information to the AI. So it does have some access to your projects and some information about proxies that you create in the system, but that's the extent of access it has currently. Now that may well increase in future, but we'd never send personal information to the AI. I also wanted to touch quickly on energy use, because I know that's quite an important topic when it comes to AI. And it's important when we talk about energy, sort of splitting the problem into two parts. The first is actually training a model. So this is something OpenAI does. And they take tens of thousands of GPUs, loads of data, and this process takes a lot of energy, unfortunately. But actually, once the model has been produced, using that model, even like we are in the Social Value Engine, isn't that energy intensive. So finding actually information on this is always a bit tricky, but the information I found, if we look back at that sort of outcome suggestion functionality that Maddie just demonstrated, is probably the energy use equivalent to having a laptop powered for sort of 20 to 30 seconds. So just putting that into perspective a little bit. And then finally, I know many of your organizations may have AI policies, and obviously we're happy to answer any security or privacy questionnaires that you may have to sort of confirm that our implementation satisfies what you expect when using AI. Yeah, and that's it from me. Thank you very much.
So what Dan alluded to is that in future we hope to for the AI to be able to identify external sources of proxies or approximations of value that are currently not in the engine. But we are careful with implementing this because we want to make sure it's accurate. We want to maintain that level of credibility and accuracy in the engine. So we're reviewing a few ways of doing that, but that's definitely something that's pretty high up our agenda. Other than that, we've got an advisory board made of customers. We always discuss AI with them. They also had a preview before anyone else did. But if you are watching this now, you think, well, it would actually be really great if it could solve this challenge of X, Y, or Z. By all means, do please feel free to reach out to any of us, because obviously we want to make sure that this helps you. So to move from not just a technical solution to one that actually solves real problems. We will now move on to answering questions that have come in, and I see that Richard has responded to some of them, but potentially Ivan, you could reply to this one. It's Jill. I'm wondering, is the default in the wizard 1 year of impact?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but you can then go in and you can adjust it as Maddie indicated. So you get quite a lot of flexibility, but it starts with that default position of an assumption of a year. We're also doing a little bit of work. I mean, it's in full release now, but you need to be quite careful when you're putting volumes in, because if you put very ambitious, very big volumes in, it will give you a large social return. And we are, Dan and I, well, Dan mainly, I've just suggested it, is doing a bit of work so that the AI will have a facility to adjust downwards with some information if you generate very large social return from it, just to help you think about the deflation process. And I would just say as well, really quickly, if I may, that notwithstanding how exciting this is, please bear in mind it's a means and not an end in itself. It's really important that people appreciate that this is a powerful tool, but ultimately the core purpose for which you're doing this isn't about having a bit of fun running stuff through the tool. It's the actual development of the social value analysis itself. So, and it is important not to take everything that comes out of it on face value. We really do relish the opportunity to engage with you about things that might not seem right, or you want to chat to us on, because that's how we all learn. Sorry, there's another question there, Maddie. I'll hand back to you, because people will get sick of just listening to me.
Oh, absolutely. It's one from Anna, our associate. Anna, can the AI provide you with a ready list of all the data you will need to collect for the proxy selected? So I just tried that, Anna, because I wasn't sure. And I fed it into the chatbot for our food pantry project. And it does, in fact, provide, and by all means, please do test this when it becomes available later for you today. It does actually provide a pretty comprehensive list of data that could be collected for these proxies to ensure you have the data you need. For the youth club, it talks about the total participants and how often they take part, but also to validate these outcomes, like how much of that has been achieved. And in these, I would say the AI is maybe 95% correct. As a practitioner, I would always ask how much of that is thanks to us, because we don't want to overclaim for our outcomes. We also want to understand what role did we play, or what part did we play, so we can set our impact adjustments accordingly, our dead weight or attribution. But I must say, good job to the developers, because it does actually provide some really good information on data that could be collected. I hope that answers your question, Anna. I just realized that I can't actually put you on screen, but we also have a question from Skylar. If we currently use the classic version of the Social Value Engine, do we need a new account to access the SVE Lite with AI? I can answer this just to keep quick. Yes, you do need a new account, Skylar, which is no problem at all, and we can get you set up. Potentially, I don't know if you've been working with Rab or Sean or Ivan directly, but if you wouldn't mind sending us a little email, you can also send it to me. I'm maddie@socialvalueengine.com. Then we make sure that you get set up on the new system. I see Rab says he'll contact you, so that's all good. We'll definitely get you set up on the new system. And yes, there's a undefined time period where you can access both, so you're not just booted off the old system.
Yeah, and there's no cost associated with them, as long as you paid your subs for the old one, which I'm sure you have, Skylar. But yeah, so you know, this is now a real additional benefit.
Great. Yes, we didn't actually mention that we're making this completely free for our lovely customers. So there's no hidden charges here. I am trying to work my way through the other questions. Neil asks, where do the proxies come from? And basically saying, is it from the, yes, currently it's only the proxies that exist in our system. Although we're looking at seeing if AI can identify external proxies that are not in our database yet. As it is now, it will support you in finding the right proxies, and you're absolutely right. It will probably save you a lot of time identifying the right proxies, so you don't have to go through the whole list and search for keywords and see which ones match best. It will suggest the ones that are most applicable. As always, though, please do use human scrutiny, because AI is great, but it can't replace people. So, but it should save you a lot of time. And I see Ivan's replied in chat again, Nicola. Great. And then a message from Sarah. It seems really helpful. One, input should really be entering the grant amount, or should we agree match funding? I'll hand this one to Ivan.
I was just writing the response.
Yeah,
I think you should include everything, and there is the facility to do that, as Maddie began to show you, and I would use the default deflators initially that it offers to you, but we always encourage people, if they've got more insightful information or the ability to collect it, to adjust those once they've got that, because that'll be a better match, and the sort of national deflators are generically derived, so it's a good starting point to use those deflators that are preset within it, linked to different types of projects. But if you do have the opportunity, do refine those in the light of your actual experience, but that'll get you going if you accept the initial ones.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of the webinar. I'm just saying, because I think a message just came in from Chloe Jane. Very quickly then, review the whole project, give advice that might give a marketer well-rounded. Right, Chloe Jane, so we offer free weekly training sessions, and you can book yourself in. If you click on the top right on your initials, you'll open your user menu. You'll see an option there to book a training slot. I think it's probably a good idea to book into one of these, so we can have a look at your project and provide advice. Obviously, you're also welcome to use AI, but the free weekly training is still there for you to use at any time. Then with 1 minute to go, I thank everyone for joining us today. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're very excited about this, and we hope you will be too. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. See you later.